It's now 5:02. Maybe we'll get going. We have a number of participants online here, and we're also live streaming on Facebook. So we'll get going right now. I'm Candice Menger. I'm the manager of the MEng graduate program here at Schulich. Really glad everyone is able to join us this evening or whatever time zone you might be joining us from. Before we get going, I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping items. First, as you enter the session, you're automatically muted and your video is not shared, and we're going to keep it that way throughout the duration of the session. We do strongly encourage that if you do have questions throughout the session, that you, near the bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A function. If you could put your questions in that, we would love to hear from you. We have about a 30-minute presentation planned for you. And at the end of that presentation, we're going to open the floor up to those questions. We'll start going through that Q&A box and answer those questions one by one. So yeah, we would love to hear from you. Please put them in there. All right, so I'm going to go through some introductions. And everybody on the line with me, as I say your name and kind of give your introduction, if you want to turn on your camera and say hi, that would be great. So we can put a face to a name here. So first off, we have Dr. Kazi Hassan. He's the director for the Center for Environmental Engineering, Education and Research, otherwise known as CERI. Also professor of Department of Geomatics Engineering. Dr. Hassan?
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon.
We also have Dr. Joel Bergeson with us, Associate Professor, Department of Chemical and Petroleum Engineering, as well as Canada Research Chair in Energy Technology Assessments.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here today.
We also have Dr. David Wood, Professor, Department of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering and CERI.
Hello, everyone. Good evening or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Nice to be here.
We also have Keith Knutson joining us. He's a project manager with Solus Energy Consulting and a Schulich alumni.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to the session. Glad to be here.
And we also have Fatima Abdul Halim with us. She's a graduate program advisor here with the MEng graduate program office.
Hello, everyone, and nice to have you all here today.
Perfect. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass control of the screen over to Dr. Hassan, and he'll kick us off.
Thanks, Candice. I'm struggling to go to the next slide. Okay. So first, I'd like to, say something about this particular program. So I would say, we are standing here at a very much, historic moment. The rationale behind this is, the MEng in environmental program is the first of its kind in the province of Alberta. And definitely I'm very much delighted. And also, I'd like to thank all of you as you are attending this particular session. So in the scope of this particular environmental engineering program, the scope will include, it will help us to upgrade your skills. And then it will also help the participants to stand out in the job market. In addition to that, it may prepare you for a leadership role. And finally, it also be helpful to earn engineering and training status with APEGA. APEGA means the engineering registration body in our province. In addition to these things, I'd like to mention that in the very, very recent time, we have noticed that the employers are basically opt to recruit professionals having knowledge in the area of environmental engineering, in addition to other engineering graduates. So consequently, we hope that upon launching this particular program, the student will be able to gain skills in a very short time period, and that will make them easily adaptable to the industrial needs. Now, in terms of this particular program, we have designed it as a full-time. That's the first criteria. The second one is it is primarily course-based. And then we are hoping that, or you can say we are expecting that the program can be completed within 8 months. So what that means is, let's say if someone starts in fall, that means September, and then the 4 months is winter, and fall, and then January to April, this 4 months will be winter term, and by that particular term, a student can get their degree, and that might be the shortest duration. In addition to that, I like to mention that majority of the time across Canada, the student for this type of courses or programs, they take usually 8 months. 2 years. Additionally, I like to mention another issue, which is about funding. So unfortunately, our school or university is not in a position to fund this particular program in terms of the tuition fee of the students. However, the students can get funding from their own, either from own sources, or most of the time they're sponsored by their companies, whatever they're working for. So in terms of completing this particular ME in environmental engineering, so a student need to take 10 courses, and little bit detail of these 10 courses I will discuss after we meet our industrial alumni. And then in this particular program, no supervisor is needed, and there will be no thesis. And another important point I like to mention here is the courses are completely flexible. So that means there will be options to choose from. It's not like, okay, we have 10 courses, this is the ones you have to take. It's not like that. Now, let us have a look why in general we like to take MEng. So definitely it will help us to gain advanced knowledge that most of the time the employers require. It can also help us to build leadership and management skill. In addition to that, it will be really useful to learn about engineering innovation and entrepreneurship. And finally, it can help us to make partnership with the industry to solve a real world engineering challenge. So in general, there are different sectors and environmental engineer work. So I try to listed some of the major sectors where where an environmental engineer works. So at this point of time, rather than I go through this, I like to invite Keith to highlight some of his experiences. And by the way, he's working with one of the top environmental engineering firm, and that delivers the renewable energy.
I think we may have lost Keith. We're just trying to get him reconnected. He had a power issue, so hopefully he's back online shortly. Maybe if we want to keep on going, and Keith can speak to that at the end of the presentation, if that sounds okay.
Yeah, so what we can do is, then I'm not going to discuss about the sectors here, so I can go with the next slide, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so now the big question is what kind of courses we should take in order to complete this particular degree. So you can easily see there are three boxes. So one box you can see the top, and then these particular courses I mentioned, these are known as core engineering subjects, which is relevant to environmental engineering. And some of the subject I mentioned here, so one is called sustainability, another is called innovation and entrepreneurship, and then climate change adaptation for engineers. And we have some other courses like project management, then energy policy for engineers. And then from that particular group, a student need to take 3 courses. So that's the requirement here. Then the second group, which is this particular one, which is under the second bracket. So these are known primarily the traditional environmental engineering issues. So that include, let's say, the air, water, then soil, and then let's say fluid mechanics, the wastewater treatment, that kind of things. And in this particular case, usually our plan is to offer at least 6 to 8. And from there, a student need to take minimum 3. And some of the course names I mentioned here is like Principles of Environmental Engineering, for example. Another one is Environmental Fluid Mechanics. The next one I like to mention is Air Pollution Control Engineering. The other one is Contaminated Soil Remediation. And another one is Wastewater Issues for the Oil and Gas Industry. Then our next group, which is at the bottom here, so these are known as non-traditional. but those things will be built on a little bit more towards math and science, so that those particular issues can help a particular engineering graduate to be mixable quite easily. So in that particular context, we have at least 7 to 8 courses that's our plan to offer. And here I'm trying to mention a couple of them. So the first one is alternate energy systems. The second one is numerical methods for engineers. Third one is environmental modeling. And the next one is life cycle assessment. And by the way, from this particular group, a student need to take at least 3. So 3 would be from the core, 3 would be from traditional, and 3 would be from non-traditional or little bit math intensive courses. And then from this particular traditional and non-traditional one, so once the students are taking 3 plus 3, then additional 1 course they can take from either from this group or this group. And by that way, a student will be, finishing 10 course and they will be completely done. Another point I like to mention is the way we design is, so let's say in the fall term, a student can take 5 courses, and then winter term, they can take another 5 courses. And by that way, that could be the shortest path in order to complete this particular degree. So I like to stop here, Candice. And I'm not sure whether Keith is available or able to reconnect us.
So not yet. If you want to keep on going, and then we can maybe at the end go back to that slide before we move to the Q&A portion, if that sounds okay.
Okay, that is a good idea. I think the next slide will be covered by Dr. Jul Bajasan. So can I invite her to join? And Candice, could you please give her control? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kazi.
I think you have control now.
Great. So I'm going to speak about, we just advanced twice there. The question of why should you be considering coming to the University of Calgary, and specifically to the Schulich School of Engineering to do your next degree. And the first thing is that we are an extremely entrepreneurial city, but also an entrepreneurially minded engineering school. We've got very deep connections with industry throughout Calgary and throughout Canada, and that really helps us get a focus on actually deploying solutions into society, which I think makes our engineering program more unique. And we've got 3,500 undergraduate students, 1,400 graduate students, and 170 faculty. So it's a large faculty here at the University of Calgary. We also, along with our ties to industry, we do also obtain a significant amount of research funding. And again, that helps ground us to actually deploy solutions that are relevant in society today and in industry specifically. I see that Keith is back, so maybe we could actually jump back to his slide, and then I can pick up on this as we get moving along. Hi, Keith.
Hi, great. Hey, it's funny. I'm having power issues at my house, which is funny because I work in the electricity industry. So the irony is not lost on me. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what was said, but I was asked to talk a little bit about what we see from industry in terms of opportunities for students with a master's of engineering and environmental engineering. And I think we're in a really exciting time because there are a lot of companies that are driving towards more like stronger and stronger sustainability targets. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people who have formal education in some sort of technology degree, such as an MEng, to help these companies meet sustainability targets. And there's a lot of focus on investment from everywhere around the world in terms of investing in these companies that have sustainability targets, and most leading companies are now doing environmental sustainability reports and publicly stating their sustainability targets. And so what we see because of that is that there's a lot of creativity happening in terms of how these industries and how these sectors are meeting their sustainability targets through operations and investment in new technology and that kind of thing. So what we see, what I see anyway, from my perspective, is that there's potential for huge technological advancement and innovation for the sustainability industry. And we see on this slide here the different types of industries and sectors that you could potentially work in. I've been working in renewable energy for the past 14 years, but I've also had the opportunity to sort of look at sustainability sort of on a broader context. We see potential opportunities for this type of engineer in the biophysical world, looking at water, soil, and air impacts. We also see it in terms of life cycle assessments. Whenever I look at sort of new technology or novel technology in terms of will this help, will this reduce emissions, will this improve water or soil quality, there's a baseline that we need to compare that to. And so we see a lot of work happening in life cycle assessments where creating baselines and then being able to compare to that with new technology, innovation, and development. The other thing that I think is really interesting, specifically for Alberta, and lots of jurisdictions around the world are doing this, which is having a carbon market. And I really like the idea of a carbon market because it turns pollution into this commodity, which fits inside the economic structures that we've developed. And so what you see is a lot of new companies are looking for ways to either minimize their carbon output or commoditize this carbon and use it as a revenue stream if they have innovative ways to reduce their carbon. So and with all that said, I think it's a really exciting space to be in. I think that having a degree in this area and learning the skills that these courses will teach you will sort of give you a leg up in terms of what employers are looking for as they move forward with their sustainability targets and try and innovate and develop new processes and technologies to meet those targets. So yeah, that's all I really had to say about that.
Thanks very much, Keith, and thanks for being able to jump back in here.
Yeah, no problem.
This leads really well into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is this idea of environmental engineering is actually, it's a very dynamic field. And that's one of the things that I find very exciting to work in this area. So I'm just going to jump back to the slide here. And so our Center for Environmental Engineering Research and Education is a collection of faculty, students, postdocs that all work in this very dynamic area. And so we continue to build our expertise and to expand that expertise in order to address societal challenges. And so these are some of the areas where we have both breadth and depth of faculty and student and postdoc capabilities within the center that we can then translate into our courses, which makes them very dynamic, similar to the field itself. And so some of these areas are water and air pollution assessment and control. Keith had mentioned the things like life cycle assessment, industrial and hazardous waste treatment, landfill engineering and greenhouse gas control, environmental modeling, renewable energy, and sustainable development. So again, it covers a very broad range, and we do have quite a bit of depth and breadth in terms of our research that makes that we can take into the classroom for these classes that we talked about. The other thing about coming to Calgary and Canada is that Calgary has been rated as one of the most livable cities in the world. And so in the most recent evaluation, we were ranked as #1 in North America and #5 in the world. And that is, it's Canada's 4th largest, province of Alberta. Alberta has about 9% of Canada's population. But Alberta and specifically Calgary really punches above its weight in terms of the entrepreneurial capabilities, the head offices that are located in Calgary, the number of technically trained engineers and others in the city, as well as it's quite a young city in terms of the average age of citizens here. And that helps to make the economy dynamic and diverse within the city itself, as well as it being a very livable city. And so I'll just note a couple more things about this. So it is the 4th largest city in Canada. One of the great things about it is that it's only an hour drive to get into the Rocky Mountains, which are absolutely stunning and provide a lot of opportunities to get out into nature and explore the national parks that we have very close to us. It is also, Canada's very safe in general, but it's Calgary is one of the safest cities in Canada. It's also becoming more and more multicultural as we develop and grow as a city, and then also that we have a beautiful climate. So while we do get some winter, we have the sunniest city in all of Canada. So we average about 333 days a year of sunshine in the day. And today is a great example. It was beautiful and sunny today, and I think we hit about 10 degrees Celsius today. So even though we're in winter, it's still a very nice place to be living. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague David Wood to pick up the discussion from here.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Thank you. I'm going to take a bit further some of Jules' statements about Calgary, because we assume when we put this slide pack together that most of the people that are on this webinar won't know much about Calgary, so we thought we'd give you a few details on that. To keep on going with that, Calgary is the fastest growing major city in Canada. It has the highest head office concentration per capita in Canada, and it has the highest concentration of high-tech workers of any city in Canada. Can we change this? Move forward, please, Candice. Or was that up to me?
You've got control of the screen.
Okay, so left click, right click. Oh yeah, left click. Okay, if you come to the University of Calgary, you will get a very high quality education. Our degrees are recognized internationally. We are competitive with the major English-speaking countries like the US, UK, and Australia, and we tend to have lower tuition fees and lower living costs. We have very advanced laboratories and equipment. You might have noticed in some of the earlier slides, which were views of the engineering buildings on the University of campus. We have almost brand new main building with a lot of labs and equipment in it. We have high level education, and we provide skills that are in demand by industry. And should I say this, we have world-renowned professors as well. We also have the highest concentration of engineers in Canada, the fastest growing tech talent market in Canada, and therefore a highly educated and skilled workforce with, as Keith was giving you some examples of, very strong graduate employment opportunities. And the University of Calgary itself is one of the top 200 universities worldwide in terms of our research output and our research interests and our funding. We're number 6 research university in Canada. And one way to measure that is that we have 169 research chairs, that is professorial positions, such as the one that I've had for the last 10 years, that are primarily devoted to research. And in the recent past, we've had 360 new inventions and innovations since 2017. And the university has very strong research income of about nearly 500 million Canadian dollars in 2018-19. And the university is very supportive of its research because it realizes how important it is. And it's very important for our students because the research and the engagement that requires and involves with industry always feeds back into our teaching. We have a number of strategic research themes, and you can see them shown horizontally on this slide here. Any energy innovations for today and tomorrow, And if I go to almost the middle one, human dynamics in a changing world, they're the ones that relate primarily to the master's degree that we're telling you about today. So with that, I will finish my part of the presentation, but I'll be around for Q&A afterwards. Thanks, Candice.
Sorry about that. I lost the button for a minute. All right. So building on everything that the faculty team and Keith had just shared with you, what I would really like to iterate is just that we're here to support you. We really are committed to that student experience and your success as a student. So whether it's through our faculty team, whether it's through the MEng office or any of the other offices or supports available across campus, we really are here to support you. Additionally, if you're joining us from outside of Alberta, outside of Canada, there's additional supports and services available to help you get settled. So we have our international students specialists that can help with immigration questions. We also have our Calgary Welcome Center that helps you prepare to move here. And then our international student services, they help students meet other peers. Even in this remote work environment that we're all in right now, they're still actively helping students connect with their peers via online. Oh goodness. If I can get the slide to advance. Oh, there we are. So how do you apply? So the application is going to open tomorrow morning. And at that time, students, prospective students can begin submitting their applications. The official deadline is April 15th to apply. That being said, we do strongly encourage you to apply early and make sure that you get your application into that complete status early as well, because we can't move it forward for review until it is in complete status. And we are reviewing applications on an ongoing basis as they move into that complete status category. So again, we're recruiting for classes starting in September, fall 2021 is what this intake is for. And yeah, the application will open up tomorrow morning. The arrow doesn't want to advance the slides. So what does it, what does the admission look like? And so the first thing is a minimum GPA of 3.0, and that's on a 4-point scale. And how that gets calculated is over the past 2 years of full-time study of an undergraduate degree. The second piece is that 4-year degree, it needs to be in an engineering field. It can be any engineering discipline, but you do need an engineering background. References are not required. And official transcripts also are not required. So we can move forward and review your application with just the unofficial transcripts. So that means just a scan gets uploaded to your application. But what we do need is any institution that you've attended, whether it was just for a couple of courses or you completed a full degree or program, we need an unofficial copy of those transcripts uploaded to your application. And if you have transfer credits or that sort of a thing, please do include those because that helps us with an efficient review of your application. When we will need official transcripts is if an offer is extended. So any offer of admission is conditional on us receiving those official transcripts. And what an official transcript is just, the document sent directly from your prior institution. Usually it's in a sealed envelope. They send it directly to us. Currently, we're able to accept electronically. There's a specific transaction and some requirements that are set up there to make sure it's all secure. And yeah, so once you get that offer letter, we'll work with you to arrange for those official transcripts. But submit your application. All you need is your unofficial transcripts, a scan uploaded to your application, and to complete the various sections within that application in as full as you can. Oh, and with that brings us to the end of the formal presentation. What I'm going to do at this time is ask that all of our panelists come back on board here. And I'm going to pull up the Q&A box here, and we can go through those questions. So if everybody's ready, I'll read it out, and yeah, whoever is, wants to jump in on that answer, go ahead. So the first question we have here is, and as we're talking, please continue to put questions into that Q&A function, and we'll continue to work through them. We definitely want to make sure that you all have the information you need. So the first question is, the website says this is a final degree. What does that actually mean? Does that mean that it can't be used towards a PhD? Does one of our faculty team want to take that?
Okay, so I like to respond to that question. So, definitely it's possible, but what happens is there are some other options. I mean, usually we see, which is, let's say, once a student admitted into MSc, then there is a conversion from MSc to PhD. So if I'm not sure the question is in that direction, that, okay, let's say I get admitted into MEng and then I like to convert into PhD. So if that is the thing, the meaning of the question, then I'm afraid that's not the path we will follow. However, once a person completes his or her degree, and then they have to talk individual faculty members, and then based on a student's or applicant's interest and the interest of the faculty members, they can be admitted into PhD program.
Thank you.
Joel or David, do you like to add anything here?
I would just say that I actually did an MEng and had done it because I wanted to switch into the field of environmental engineering, thinking I was going to go out and start consulting after that, and then got really excited about the topics, and so ended up doing the PhD afterwards. So that is possible. It's not the typical route. It's typically something that you use to upskill and develop some new skills in addition to your undergraduate degree. But I'm an example of somebody that did that.
Thank you.
No, I don't have anything to add.
Our next one is, what is the maximum amount of students the U of C will allow into this program? Dr. Hassan, do you want to touch on that, or would you rather I?
Okay, it would be my pleasure to respond to this question. So definitely, we have to understand that this is a brand new program. So initially, what we are thinking to, let's say, 30 to 50 students as our first cohort. However, let's say if the students are demanding and there are lots of demands and qualified, students are asking to be admitted, then definitely we will reconsider. And in addition to that, I like to mention our first cohort will start in September 2021. And then the next one will be admitted in winter. So every 4 months there will be admission.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Our next one is, I've been out of school for 2 years. I am worried that the courses will be very math heavy, much like the undergraduate courses. Is this the case, or are the courses more likely to involve assignments, essays, and papers?
I can answer that from experience, because one of the courses that Professor Hussain showed in his part of the presentation was my course, Alternative Energy Systems, which I teach as part of this program. That is a engineering technical elective, if you look at it in another context. So it's designed to be building on basic engineering knowledge. And therefore, there is some mathematics involved with it, because I require students to have a fundamental knowledge of some of the techniques, like control volume techniques that are used in thermodynamics and fluid mechanics. But at the same time, we've historically let people into the course that are not strong in those skills, but give them the opportunity to upgrade or learn enough about those techniques to get through the course. Having said that, the aims of these courses are to bridge between the, if you like, the engineering science knowledge and the practical application of that knowledge. So in my course, we learn about hydropower, solar photovoltaics and wind energy, and the emphasis is on how those technologies work. So there is some amount of mathematics, but it's mainly aimed at very practical uses of it. So for example, how much power will you get out of a wind farm in southern Alberta? That could be an assignment question in my course. So it's a balance. Some of the courses, like numerical methods for engineers, as it sounds, is a lot more math heavy, but that's probably the extreme.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to add to that question at all?
Yeah, I might just add that that a lot of these classes do have that applied component to it. So we are expecting that you're coming in with strong engineering skills from the fundamentals that you've picked up through your undergraduate degree. And then you're applying those to broader questions in society. So I have also taught the graduate level life cycle assessment class. And a good portion of the grade is associated with a project where you can actually apply those skills at a systems level to a real world problem. And so we do really try to push that, towards those applied types of problems. And so we do have several courses like that as part of this, where, a good portion of your grade is associated with a project. And, if you're feeling a little rusty on some of those skills, you'll have the capacity to sort of get yourself back up to speed on those techniques and then apply them to some of these other problems.
Okay, can I add my
of course.
experiences? Okay, so put it this way, for the last 12, 13 years, every year I teach at least 2 of the courses which are part of this particular program. And those include like environmental modeling. Another one is Earth observation for environment. And the new one I plan to launch next year as part of this program in particular, that is climate adaptation for engineers. So all these, courses, if you look, then some courses, for example, environmental modeling, yes, there are mathematical components are there. However, in the past, I have seen these students are coming from all the 5 engineering departments. Even sometimes I have seen a student without engineering background, they jump in my class. And I figure out, yeah, those are math intensive, but I also try to go with more concept. And then once a conceptual part is very clear to the students, then mathematical part, okay, is not that much, bothering for the students. In addition to that, I like to mention that all of the courses has, project component, as my other colleagues mentioned. So definitely we encourage people to have, the individual and group projects. And also in my courses, and I'm quite confident so many courses are like that. So I enforce people to make presentation in front of the people so that they get, experience of presenting themselves. And also I force people to, write a report, and I guide them how to make good reports as well. So those type of skills are very, very important for professional engineers, not in Canada, but elsewhere in the world.
Thank you. The next one, maybe Keith, you want to take this one. What jobs or employment opportunities are there in environmental engineering?
Oh, it's such a broad broad industry, So I work in renewable energy, and within my industry, we see a lot of technical jobs in terms of what David or Professor Wood, sorry, had suggested in terms of looking at energy resource coming out of wind farms in southern Alberta. We also do a lot of solar resource work. So my industry, there's a lot of technical work, but there's also a lot of sort of non-technical work in terms of understanding complex regulatory systems for permitting projects, that sort of thing. But as I was talking about before, sustainability is such a broad topic that but we see so much pressure from the international stage, from the national stage, for these companies to be, having sustainability targets and reducing their overall footprint. So if you were going into any company, I would say these days, if you're not thinking about sustainability as a company, I think in my opinion is you might be falling behind. Everybody's thinking about it. Everyone's thinking about ways to do things better and more efficient. So I would say if you're looking at a technical role, there's lots of challenges out there that need solutions. From trying to figure out how to minimize oil leaks from pipelines, to what do we do with bio waste. I've worked with some clients who have a digester within their office building to deal with their bio waste. So I think what's really interesting about this program and potential jobs from graduating from this program and opportunities is that it's so varied, and being an engineer is it gives you so many opportunities because you understand those fundamental concepts that you learn in school, and I think it opens that door to go into these companies and say, hey, I've got an idea for how we could do things better. So I know it's sort of a broad answer to the question, but
that's perfect.
It's a broad question.
Did anybody else want to add to that? I know you all work so closely with industry in your research. Did you have anything else to add, or should I move to the next question?
I could add a little bit from my corner of this broad subject, because I work in renewable energy technologies, and master's students that I've been involved in since the time I've been in Calgary have gone into industries like wind farm owners in Alberta. There's a number of the big oil and gas companies that work the oil sands in northern Alberta also have a lot of wind farms in southern Alberta, and I have ex-students that work for those. Another ex-master's student is now working for the biggest photovoltaics installer in Calgary. I have ex-students that work in the electricity utility industry, doing things like modeling consumer demand for electricity and things like that. So even within a fairly small section of the very broad topic, there's quite a range of jobs available.
Yeah, maybe I can just add as well that I think, when we think of Alberta and Calgary, we typically think energy, and we typically think oil and gas. And while that's still a very, prominent component of our economy, and there are quite a few environmental challenges that are requiring researchers and companies to be working on solutions for. And again, that ranges air, water, land. There's a whole range of things that are being worked on in oil and gas. But as Keith and David have mentioned, our electricity system is going through a massive transformation right now as well. So there's a lot of really exciting things happening in that space. And then as a large city and a population of over 4 million within the province, we have needs for things like clean drinking water and industrial water treatment that goes beyond energy. And so there is, a broad set of ways in which you could apply this degree to, a range of industries within the province and beyond.
Okay, so can I add, beyond the traditional industries? So put it this way, I know that if you look any of the provinces and also the federal government, each of them has a department called environment. For an example, with Alberta Environment, the current name is Alberta Environment and Parks. So I work with them for a long, long time. Then sustainable development is another department. So right now they call agriculture and forestry. And then if you look into, federal level, Natural Resources Canada, Environment Canada, Forestry Canada, and each of the departments, we have equivalent things at the provincial level. And also nowadays, if you look into the local government level, all of them supposed to have a cell on each of the items I mentioned. So if you try to look into the job market in the government sector in particular, then there are lots of things are happening, and everybody try to look, as Keith mentioned, is sustainable development. In addition to that, climate change portfolio, for the last 4 years in US, due to political reasons, that was slowed down. But I can tell you that, when the new government is coming, it will click within 24 hours, the climate change accord. Okay, so you can also see lots of demand for us in that particular direction.
Thanks, everybody. Our next question is, I have specialized in energy and environment in my undergrad and have taken courses such as life cycle assessment and alternative energy systems. Can those be credited towards the program, or would I have to take the 600 level courses?
Can I answer that question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so usually some of our courses, for example, my own course, environmental modeling, it has an undergrad component and grad component. So though the course evaluation is a little different, but usually we don't provide credit to the students. So I'm extremely sorry for this particular case. However, the students can take other courses because we are not, putting only, let's say, 4 courses and then asking people to take 4. So definitely for each of the groups, as mentioned in my, talk, so let's say if we need 3, we are offering minimum 6. And then if you take out, okay, whatever you have taken in the past, maybe still you may have minimum 5 courses left. In addition to that, I like to mention, let's say, due to some reason you are exhausted, then, as the center, we will try to find some other alternates to address this particular issue.
Thank you. Our next one is classes like water and pollution assessment have a laboratory component. I guess, do they have a laboratory component is the question.
Can I respond this question again?
Yes, please.
Okay, so most of our courses, to my understanding and knowledge, except only one course, there are no direct lab component or associated there. However, once there is some laboratory component, for example, my colleague David was mentioning about alternate energy, and then he could easily confirm that every year he takes, maybe this year it will be COVID, it will be different, but he takes the students to the wind farms, or he's supposed to show them how to download data and how to integrate those type of things. So lots of the things are exactly like that. And then if some of the course component require lab, so what we are trying to do is we are trying to incorporate our research experiences built into inside the courses. So by that way, we try to take out the extensive lab component in this particular program.
Perfect. So there's a couple of questions here. And so maybe I'll kind of combine the questions and then let our faculty team kind of speak to them. The first question is around just the COVID situation and what we're anticipating for next year, if we're going to be online or not. But just in general, is the program online or is it an in-person program? What's the intention there? And we spoke a little bit about labs and field trips, but more questions around that if anybody would like to elaborate further on that.
I guess I can just say that on the teaching online, so the university is making decisions on a semester by semester basis. So I think they've already made the decision, so we can be planning for the winter term 2021, and that will be a hybrid model. And so the university is trying to get as many people doing active things on campus as is safe. And so my understanding is that they're going up to about a maximum of 30 students in one class, and about 30% of things happening on campus, but that gets monitored regularly to make sure that that's being done safely. I think we've had, comparatively speaking, a very good track record of keeping people safe on campus and communicating transparently about those kinds of things. So we are very clear about how we're approaching the winter term this year. We're then going to get guidance from the university for the spring and summer term, and then into the fall next year. So those will be decided as we go, but we have been operating with about 20% of activities on campus this current semester, where the other aspects are taught online. And the feedback that we get from the students is, that generally things are going quite well as can be expected in this environment. And hopefully by the fall of next year, we're going to be back into a much more normal state of teaching, because I think everyone recognizes that being in person and actually doing activities at the university is one of the best things about doing these types of degree programs. And so we're hopeful that we'll get back there as soon as possible.
Perfect. Did anybody else want to add to that at all?
Maybe I can add a little bit. So I can give an example in this particular case, in addition to what my colleague Joel mentioned. So, most likely some of you know that in the very recent time, Alberta government announced some restriction. However, the university administration and the community here, we take those things very, very seriously, and whatever we implemented in the month of September, and then we figure out with the new addition of our premier's direction and recommendation, we are basically following those things prior to that announcement. So that's one component. Another thing is, as Joel mentioned, okay, the university is, very closely monitoring, and then whatever decision they take, then we just follow that direction. And then, another issue is, if it is not safe, then campus will be running like this, to my understanding. However, everything depends on, the federal government, provincial government, local government, and then university.
We had touched on, I say we, you all had touched on a little bit earlier that I think Dr. Wood takes his students in non-COVID times on field trips to the wind farms and whatnot. Is there anything else that we can say about field trips that are associated with this program?
I think the main thing we can say is that there won't be any for winter 2021, and we'll have to review the situation. I mean, part of the problem with running graduate courses is that the students may not be in Canada. I have a grad course running starting in January, and there's fewer than 30 students in the course. So I was expecting to teach it in person, but that didn't turn out to be the case because a substantial fraction of those students are not in Canada. So I think we will be, we're online for the beginning of 2021. What happens for the start of the MEng program that we're talking about today will have to be decided sometime between now and then.
Perfect.
If I could,
please.
If I could just add, so field trips with specific courses are, in the courses I teach, we don't have specific field trips and things like that. But I would just say that, as a student at U of C, you become a part of the community here. And there's some really active student groups, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. And so they're very active in planning field trips and listening to students about what they'd be interested in participating in. And so there's quite a number of opportunities to join clubs and that kind of thing. And field trips are a big focus of a lot of our environmental groups that we have in engineering, definitely.
Perfect, thank you for adding that. The next question is that I'll take this one. I submitted my application for this program last month. However, I said that the application opens tomorrow. How is that? So I believe that you would have applied for one of our other programs, perhaps civil or chemical with a specialization in the environmental engineering. And so those applications have been open for some time now. But the actual MEng in environmental engineering, that application opens tomorrow morning. And so definitely connect with us at meng@ucalgary.ca if you have any questions, because we are able to move your application from whatever your home department application was submitted for with the specialization. We can move that over to the MEng environmental engineering. So connect with us and we can figure that all out. If you want to stay where you are or if you want to move over to this program, we can move your application. I hope that answers that question. We have another one around the estimated cost of the program. And so right now the tuition for next year hasn't been published. So the best thing to do is, to keep an eye on our grad calendar. Right now, the grad calendar, that's the most, not right now, it always is the most accurate source of information. And so that's going to give you the numbers for the current academic year. Also within the FGS future student page, there's also how you can calculate. So there's some base fees, but then your tuition is based on how many courses you are taking per term. You're charged per course in addition to those baseline fees. And whether you are a domestic student or international student, some of those fees are going to look a little bit differently. And so it's going to be best to go to that, how do I calculate a website? And perhaps Fatima, if you could pump that into the chat, that future student website, that would be appreciated. And then you can calculate that for your specific situation. You can always reach out to us as well, and we can help. meng@ucalgary.ca. Is GPA the only deciding factor for admission into the program? I'm going to, maybe Dr. Hassan, you can step in if you want. I'll kick this one off. It's definitely one of the key factors that we're looking at. It was mentioned before by our faculty team that we want to make sure that you're going to be successful in the program. And so that's definitely something that we're looking at, and that your prior engineering degree, that you have that strong foundation in place. But we are reviewing your application in whole. You're asked to submit your resume as well. And so we're looking at you as a whole person. Yeah, Dr. Hassan, would you add to that at all? Or Fatima?
Yeah, so I mean, whatever you said, I think it's complete. But one particular aspect I like to add, and Candice, please, help me to correct if that's not the case, okay? So some students I can see, they mention about, okay, they applied for, let's say, electrical engineering department with the specialization environmental engineering for next fall. So my understanding is from next fall means 2021, there will be no environmental engineering specialization in MEng across our engineering school. So all will be admitted into Masters of Engineering in Environmental Engineering.
Yes.
I'm repeating again. So that is the case for September 1st, that means fall 2021. However, if your application is for winter 2021, that's a different case. So those students may be given an opportunity to convert if they like to. If not, then we are not going to say, okay, we admitted you in a particular program and we are forcing you. No, we are not going to do that.
Thank you. That's a good clarification. Yeah, if you had applied to winter 2021, we are continuing with that specialization. If you had applied to fall 2021 with that specialization, we would have reached out to you directly. And so if you want to stay within civil or chemical or whatnot, and within the general program, that would be an option, but that specialization wouldn't be available within the those MEngs. So for the environmental engineering, we'll be redirecting students to this program. Definitely. Thank you for clarifying that. Because yeah, I don't think it was clear when I said that before. Could you please let me know what is the post-grad work permit duration which will be offered for this degree? And so all post-grad work permit questions, they should be directed to our International Student Services team. Fatima can perhaps put the link. Fatima, if you click on the Q&A button there, you're able to answer directly within the chat. But basically, if you just go to the UCalgary website and type in ISS, that webpage is going to pop up for you right away, and you're going to see their contact information. And they have a bunch of resources available about study permits and post-grad work permits. And they're going to be the best to answer those questions. We're not qualified to advise on immigration issues. Yeah, I hope that answers that question there. But as Dr. Hassan said, the expected progression for this program is 8 months. Since this MEng program is self-funded, am I still able to apply for a full-time student loan? So I don't know if Keith or anybody would like to speak to this, but I think a lot of students do apply for a student loan, and that's how they fund their program. I think where oftentimes why we state that it's self-funded is that with the thesis program, often there's funding attached to it, whereas with the course-based MEng program, there isn't that same funding. And so whether you're funding it, personally, you have that cash available, or it's through a student loan of some sort, that would be the difference there. I'm not sure if somebody might explain that better than me. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, I think I can touch, on that. So first thing I like to mention is all the loan regulation, immigration regulation, work permit type of things. I'm trying to put everything in one bucket. And to my understanding, all of those things are regulated by the respective regulatory body. It's nothing to do with university. Okay, that's number one. So current regulation is like this. If you finish 2 years of courses, then you will get 2 years of work permit, open work permit to stay and work in Canada. After that, okay, based on your situation, the immigration department will decide what the fate of that particular person. Okay, so that's number one response. Now come back to the loan question. So if it is a full-time program and not research-based, then the respective provincial government is willing and happy to provide the loan for that particular student. However, everything depends on the program. Everything depends on how a particular province provide funding to their student. Okay, so that's the second part. Another one, question I mentioned, which is about, okay, do I need to complete the program in 8 months? So we have the path. So if let's say, let us consider someone like to finish, and then the question is, what could be the minimum time they need to complete the degree? So that is 8 months. But usually what happens is, I have seen from my own experiences, but Candice can elaborate more. So some of the programs, the students usually takes 2 years to complete. Some of the programs, okay, the students usually they come and go. For example, the software engineering, the student don't stay there more than 8 months. But other programs, most of the time it is 1.5, sometimes 2. It depends on the student's situation. Okay, so I believe I already have answered several questions, and then I can see there are some specific questions that particularly asking me, that is like what kind of software you use for your environmental modeling course. So as I'm talking, so I'm taking the opportunity to fill in the gap. So for environmental modeling, yes, some person can use some dedicated software, but my objective here is not to ask someone to go for a particular software. So that means is, okay, if someone knows Excel very well, then we try to look into, let's say, okay, this is the equation, this is the formula, this is the concept, and then, Excel is good enough to implement, for learning purposes. But if you try to think, okay, I need to automate those things, then you need to, use, you can use Python or R or this and that, and then you can also use some specific softwares. But the objective in the program is not go for the software, rather than more and more towards the concept. Okay, so I like to stop here.
We have a question. What are some of the companies that you have collaborations with? And is there any support in reaching these companies for internships?
I can answer, part of this question. So what happens is, let us consider we have about 20 faculty members affiliated with the center. So then the different, professors, they have different type of expertise. They have different type of connections. So in general, yes, as a whole and collectively, most likely we have connection, with all the sectors, including government, private, NGO, and industry. Okay. However, this particular program doesn't have the component of internship. So we don't have the structured internship like the undergrad program, which is in our school currently offering. But in terms of the master's program, that's not an option. However, let's say during the summer months, spring and summer, we don't offer most of the time no courses. So during that 4 months, okay, the student can go and get an internship, and then they can also, get the experiences. However, our university doesn't have any mechanism or a dedicated facility to make sure the students are getting internship or not.
And I add a little bit to that? So as Dr. Hassan said, the internship isn't actually part of this program formally. However, through the Faculty of Graduate Studies, MN students do have access to the Transformative Talent Internship Program. And so that's I shouldn't say program, it's called an option. So that's something that is available. There are job postings, there's lots of workshops, professional development opportunities, networking opportunities. We already spoke about the different student clubs and how engaged they are. They provide lots of opportunities as well to connect with employers. And so there's, we have a central career services team as well. They can provide mock interviews and resume reviews and all that good stuff that can also help in your job search. I'm not sure if Keith, maybe you want to speak a little bit about that in your experience.
Yeah. Actually, I was just going to jump in. The main reason why I'm in the career that I'm in, it was actually because of the networking opportunities that the University of Calgary presented for its students. So even though my degree helped me get into that networking opportunity, the opportunities that the university has extracurricular wise in terms of, we talked about doing these field trips, we talked about, professional development opportunities, networking, the graduate program, the things that they offer to help you get out there and meet people. I met my mentor through a networking opportunity who introduced me to my first company that I worked with. So I think that's one of the benefits of the University of Calgary is there's so many opportunities to not only study and learn, but then connect with people in your program, outside your program, within the university community, and then within the greater industry in general. So yeah.
Perfect, thank you. We have another question. I'm just being mindful of the time. We're at 6:10. So we're going to do our best to get through. We have a fair few questions still in here. We are going to wrap the session up at 6:30. So we'll try to get through these remaining questions here. There is a question around basically the student is still hasn't graduated from their undergrad program yet, and wondering if they are still able to, they're just finishing it up, they're in the final term, it looks like, and they'll have their results in January. And so they're just looking for reassurance that it's okay for them to still apply for this program. Fatima, you're nodding, maybe you want to take this and how we handle that from an admission piece.
For sure, the applicants can submit applications during their final year in the undergrad degree. So yes, they can submit an application, upload the most recent grades that they've got, and later on, once they get, for example, the 7th semester grades, they can contact the MEng office, let them know that they've had new marks coming up, and they can upload the updated ones. But first they need to let the MEng office know so that they can go back and check on the file again.
Thank you. So you'll be evaluated when we say your application will move forward for review. It'll be reviewed based on what you've completed to date. And as Fatima said, we'll go back and review as the new marks become available. Fair? Yeah. The next one is wondering about the 5 courses per semester. Would we consider that to be a heavy course load? If anybody wants to, typical or a heavy course load? Would anybody want to speak to that?
Yes, I like to take the question. Yes, it can be heavy, but everything depends on a particular person. So as I already mentioned, several times, the minimum time, if you like to follow 8 months, then yes, you have to take 5 courses per semester. However, that's not mandatory. So usually, to my understanding and knowledge, if someone takes 2 to 3 courses, then they are considered as the full-time student for that particular semester. And some other questions I have seen is that, okay, what is the time limit to complete the degree? So as I said, 8 months is minimum. Most of the student may take, it depends on their background and their, personal preferences, maybe 2 years. But then according to our, FGS, that is Faculty of Graduate School regulation, so most of the student or any of the students, the maximum time limit would be 4 to 6 years in order to complete their degree. Am I right, Candice?
Yeah. Perhaps what I'll add a little bit to that about the heavy course load, and you kind of indicated that it was unique to the individual, whether that might be considered heavy or not. I do want to maybe take this opportunity to add that we have an academic development specialist in-house that's devoted specifically to our MN students. And so they work with our students one-on-one, help tailor study strategies unique to that individual. That can be helpful if you've been out of school for some time to kind of get back into the swing of things and get comfortable. There's definitely supports available. And so we encourage students to take advantage of those. Yeah, please.
I was just going to add, just as a reference point, given that I did do a degree like this, I was working full time and did the coursework, which was a similar course load. I completed the degree in 3 years, and I found it quite manageable with a pretty intense full-time job, and then spreading the courses out over 3 years, just as an example.
Super helpful. Thank you for adding that. The next question is around the credit grades that are happening currently due to COVID. How does this affect the GPA calculation for admission? Fatima, did you want to speak to that, please?
Sure. The Faculty of Grad Study has actually noticed that and has put in place changes for the GPA calculation during this time because of the credit and fail grades. I will include a link within the question, the Q&A, so that the student can have a look at it and see how it's done now. Just to note that we will calculate it in 3 different ways, and we will take the highest mark that we get for the GPA, and that way it would meet the admission requirements.
Thank you, Fatima. So yeah, please do.
I was just going to jump in again. I think the university just came out today to say that they've made a decision about the credits for this particular semester at U of C. And so I think, I think it does reflect well on the University of Calgary, where we're taking into account the fact that we're in unprecedented times and we sort of care about the mental health of our students. And so we're trying to be as flexible and supportive as possible throughout this time, right? So I think, not just in the calculation of the grades to come in, but recognizing that, that we have to be adaptive and recognize that these are not, current times do not reflect necessarily the outcomes that we would expect to see in a regular year.
Thank you for adding that. That's, yeah, definitely true in these times. What times are classes typically scheduled for when they are in person? Are there options for evening courses?
Can I comment on that?
Please.
So most of the courses are in evening time, but not all of them. For an example, my own course that is in daytime, like around 12 to 1. However, I am going in a direction to synthesize the course in one shot and then try to put in maybe 3 to 5 in the afternoon or 3 to 6 in the afternoon. So most of the courses are like that. However, there are some exceptions, and based on the demands, based on resources, okay, we always try to, go with the demand.
Would anybody else like to add to that? No?
Maybe I'll just say that I think, given this unprecedented time, we're doing a lot of things online, and I think we might be adapting some of that moving forward. I think there's some, we're reevaluating our teaching and the effectiveness of our teaching and that kind of thing. And so I think that this is going to bode well for these types of programs where people, need more flexibility in terms of when the material is presented and that kind of thing. And so I would suspect that this is going to become more flexible over time.
Perfect, thank you. The next question is just about a supervisor. And just to reiterate, you don't need a supervisor for this program. So the next one, oops, I lost track of where we are here. Are there organizations besides employers who provide grants, scholarships, or funding to graduate programs? So we do have, again, under FGS, or go to the main U Calgary page, and under funding your graduate program, there's a database of all the available scholarships that are available. There are some kind of niche external scholarships that are available to students. APEGA has one, for example. And so those might be of interest. And yeah, the best thing is to look through that database and look at what might apply to you in your situation. But as a whole, most of the typical scholarships and funding that would be available to a thesis-based student are actually available to the course-based MEng students. All right, so I think I've created a little bit of confusion around which application you apply to. So if you are interested in this program, the MEng in Environmental Engineering, tomorrow you're going to submit your application. You're going to hit that little apply now button and you'll select the MEng in Environmental Engineering option. If you have already applied to a different program with a specialization in environmental engineering, we're going to work with you to transition your application either to the program you're in without the specialization, because it will no longer be available, or we'll work with you to transition your application to this program, the MEng in Environmental Engineering. So our program advisor, like Fatima or Dana, I think is probably the one that's reached out directly to you already. We'll work with you to figure out what is going to be, the best decision for you, and then we'll support you in making that change with your application. I hope that helps clarify there. All right. I graduated in 2015 from the U Calgary. Currently, I am working on an engineering education research. I have no other industrial work experience related to my field of study. Do I qualify for this program?
Maybe the student could clarify what they graduated from, what program they came from in 2015.
Yeah, if you can put that in there for us, that would be helpful. And yeah, if you don't want to pump it in there, you can always reach out to meng@ucalgary.ca with those details, and we can chat with you about whether or not your background would be a fit for the program.
They've just responded. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
That it's electrical engineering.
Yes, 100%. If you have a degree in any of the engineering disciplines, then you are a fit for this program. So I'm just looking at the last question there, our panelist team here, about, and I think we still have created confusion inadvertently. So the MEng in Environmental Engineering, whether the program isn't starting, we're not having an intake for fall 2021 for the MEng Environmental Engineering. Our very first intake for this program is going to be September 2021. So right now, tomorrow morning, we will start accepting applications for fall 2021. That'll be the first time we run this program. Right now, winter 2021, we do have some students that have been admitted to, say, chemical or civil with a specialization in the environmental engineering. So specialization, not a full MEng in environmental engineering. So you would be getting your MEng in chemical or civil engineering with this specialization. So this specialization is going to be discontinued. So right now, I'm going to assume that you haven't applied to winter 2021 because those applications have been closed. So right now, you would be looking towards fall 2021 or perhaps out to winter 2022. Goodness, that sounds gross to say. But right now, we're looking to recruit for fall 2021 starts, and that's going to be for the MEng Environmental Engineering program. So your parchment will say an MEng in Environmental Engineering. I hope that helps. If somebody wants to rephrase so it is clearer.
Or maybe I can take, the opportunity to rephrase. So some of the questions I have seen, the people are asking, okay, I have applied, let's say in chemical and petroleum with the environmental engineering specialization, do I need to reapply? So the department name can be different. So answer is, as you already applied, so our MEng office is going to communicate back with you, and there will be two options. One is whatever, the main department you applied, let's say chemical, or let's say civil, or computing, whatever it is. So they will give you option, okay, this specialization is no longer available. So you can take the degree in your actual or the original department. That's one option. Another option is, okay, you can convert everything into MEng in environmental engineering. And that's supposed to be started in fall 2021.
Perfect.
Is this clear enough, Candice?
I think so. I hope so. If it's not, again, our team would have reached out to you via the meng@ucalgary.ca email. Feel free to drop us an email back. We can schedule a one-on-one Zoom advising session with you so that we can work through your individual situation. We can do it via email or via a one-on-one Zoom session with an advisor to figure out what you want to do with your application. We can leave it or we can move it. We want to make sure that you have all the information you need to make the best decision, but you don't need to reapply. You don't need to repay the fee. We can move it in the system for you. So we'll connect with you directly and figure that out with you to support. And with that, yes.
I'd like to add one more thing in regards to that, that you as an applicant would be the one to make the decision for your submitted application for fall 21 to be reviewed under the environmental engineering or the home department of the first application that you first submitted. If that gives.
Thank you, Fatima. So with that, we've gotten to the end of our questions here, and we are just about at 6:30. I want to thank everybody for logging on. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all of our faculty team being with us, and Keith, thank you for logging on. I really appreciate your time and your answers. Again, if you do have questions that pop in your head overnight, feel free to give us an email at meng@ucalgary.ca, and we'll do our best to help you. Again, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.